English translation, 431st contact, Monday 31st July 2006, 1814 hours.
I am sorry to call you here again, dear friend, because there is a question I need to clarify for Bernadette and for Guido's book, which we're revising. It is the date of 17th of October 1976, as mentioned in Guido's book in relation to an experience report. For the same report, however, the date of the 17th of June 1976 is given in the witness book, so we are now in a jam with it and do not know which is the correct date. If you perhaps know about it? Since you are still in the area, I thought I might call you again to ask you. I also have another question. But now be welcome and greeted.
Salome, my friend. Since I am still here, it is not inconvenient for me to come again. However, I cannot stay long because the time of my departure is already fixed. Regarding the 17th of October, 1976, I can confirm that this is the correct date because I remember it very well due to the narrative of my daughter Simya Se. At that time, together with Guido Moosbrugger, you made a big hot air balloon with a volume of 85 cubic meters, which you then let rise into the air in connection with a demonstration to eliminate a spruce tree.
That is what the date refers to. But can I ask another question now, if you still have time to answer?
Certainly, but there is no hurry because I can spare half an hour to answer your question and talk to you.
Oh, I thought you only had a few minutes. Good. 2 hours ago, I received a telephone call whereby a man complained that I thereby abused the neutrality of the Swiss and had trampled underfoot, because in my bulletins and in our contact reports I do not remain neutral. Rather, I say my opinion in regard to politics, the punishment practices and the war machinations as well as terrorist machinations of especially the USA, Israel, Hezbollah, Hamas and Al-Qaeda and so forth. The man, a Swiss, was of the opinion that I should hold my snout, stay quiet, regarding this because the neutrality of the Swiss demands that. Subsequently, a ripping open the snout, not staying quiet, as I do, injures the neutrality of our country, damages it, and brings our land much harm.
That is nonsense and a misunderstanding of neutrality.
Indeed, I think that too. For my part, I am of the view that, quite especially in the exercising of neutrality, is anchored the obligation that one is not permitted to be silent in regard to politics and punishment practices, as well as war and terrorist machinations. Rather, they must be talked about, and the actual facts must be named clearly, openly, and in a strikingly hard manner. In my opinion, keeping silent does not mean neutrality, rather tolerance and the promotion of the political, punishment-related, religious, militaristic, and terrorist atrocities. Every human who knows these things, and thereby the truth of the facts, and is silent over them, makes himself or herself guilty of irresponsibility and of a crime against all humans who come to death or damage through political, militaristic, religious, sectarian, war-related, criminal, and terrorist behaviors and actions. Neutrality means, therefore, also to be active in relation to bearing responsibility in regard to the open naming and denouncing of the existing facts and the wrong modes of behavior of all those who govern the world, as, however, also of all their henchmen and vassals who carry out their orders of war, in terroristic or in an otherwise human unworthy manner. Silence is never compatible with neutrality, because this requires that the effective facts of war, terror of destruction, murder, torture, wrong punishment, orders and rape, and so forth, become openly and clearly named, and indeed in regard to all contracting parties and persons. He or she who is silent is not only cowardly and not neutral, rather also absolutely irresponsible. Neutrality obliges talking, and the open and clear naming of the effective facts in every relationship and regarding every party. Subsequently, one party is not permitted to be given preference and the other disadvantaged. Therefore, neutrality obliges that political, religious, sectarian, militaristic, punishment-related, to which also torture and death penalty belong, and terrorist machinations and crimes, are openly pointed out and denounced, and indeed it does not matter which governments, authorities, and countries are entangled therein. However, all that has nothing to do with politicizing, thus thereby that a political actuation would come about through the naming of the effective facts, because fundamentally, it only thereby concerns the free expression of opinion, which must be the human obligation if one wants to bear their responsibility. In particular, this free expression of opinion and the bearing of responsibility is, however, necessary in regard to the maintenance of neutrality, because this does not mean silence, rather talking, and indeed talking in the form and manner that the effective facts of all opponents and parties, and so forth, which are a stumbling block, become named, and their machinations must be named clearly, openly, and without whitewashing. That, however, first rightly means to maintain neutrality, which obligates the showing of the facts and the demand that war, terror, torture and other crimes and atrocities, as well as the murderous infliction of punishment and so forth, are attributed and abolished for the benefit of a true peace, or at least a peaceful coexistence. That, my friend, is my understanding in regard to neutrality, which is not permitted to simply alone be impartiality and its restriction of not actively interfering in political, military, terrorist, and war-related behavior, and also not permitted in religious, sectarian, and worldview denominations of other states. Neutrality is very much more, because humanity is also anchored in it, as well as human dignity and reverence for all life. And what I still want to say to that is that I rip open my snout because I know my responsibility as a human and as a neutral Swiss citizen, however, because also that is my right, as in Article 19, freedom of opinion and information in the general explanation of the rights of the human, as stands written in the following: every human has the right to free expression of opinion. This right extends to the freedom to adhere, unhampered, to opinions, and to seek, to perceive and to spread information and ideas with all means of understanding without consideration of restrictions. The primitive stupid saying that many Swiss people maintain the use of, "I have no opinion because I am, as a Swiss person, neutral," has nothing to do with neutrality, rather with cowardice and irresponsibility. What do you think of my opinion?
I am completely in accord with what you said. There is no more to say on that.
Short and concise. Then I still have essentially only one question regarding Lebanon. Do you know what the Israelis actually have up their sleeve there?
On one hand, they want to conquer Hezbollah, and indeed it does not matter what it costs in human lives and material and so forth. With that, they want to prove themselves as an unconquerable power and thereby frighten the Arabian countries. On the other hand, they want to bring the southern areas of Lebanon under their control, whereby it is also important to them that they can advance far into Lebanese land. The abduction of the 2 Israeli soldiers through the Hezbollah was, for the state powers of Israel and the mighty military ones, only a mendacious pretext in order to be able to expand into Lebanon. For their purpose, they do not shrink in horror from either any kind of war crimes, or from knowingly killing children and women through well-considered attacks of the Air Force and ground troops, which they, however, deny in every case, and meanwhile describe the entire thing as oversights and the like. Today I stopped in the Lebanese war area, and with horror had to recognize the real truth, which is not recognized by the world, and also is kept secret from the Israeli people. What is also to say in the same breath, however, regarding Hezbollah, relates in the same measure thereon, that they behave in the same criminal manner with their rocket attacks on Israel as the Israeli armed forces, Because even this so-called freedom organization murders innocent humans through their rockets, even if not precisely in the monstrous measure as happens through the Israeli aggressors.
And that entire matter naturally further advances hate on both sides. Also, the hate of Israel by the Arabs of all Arabic and other Islamic countries grows naturally without bounds, which ultimately can lead to Israel yet still being attacked by United Arabic Armed Forces and razed to the ground. I can thereby vividly imagine that in the first position the Iranian state president, Ahmadinejad, will grasp the word in regard to this and let loose corresponding batting tirades in order to fight Israel and destroy it. His baiting is indeed known, and his hate talk that Israel should be erased has carried evil fruit in some places, as you told me when I recently asked you about that.
Unfortunately, that is really so.
The world should really listen and act instead of being silent and passive. The false diplomacy, as well as the false humanitarianism, the blatant cowardice and angst, however, impede a multinational troop which fights for peace, being put together as quickly as possible, in order to prepare an end for the criminals of Israel and Hezbollah, as also in order to pull to account those who agree with the deeds of the contracting parties, and who still supply and protect them with weapons. However, the intelligence of the responsible ones of all countries, as well as of the peoples of the earth, does not yet extend to behaving in this logical wise, and the small crowd who possess the necessary intelligence is scattered worldwide, and has no power to do the right thing. For the present, they are only voices calling in the wilderness, because the people do not want to hear them, and only think of their own well-being, and allow the fellow humans to die miserably.
That is the alarming truth.
I am also one of the callers in the wilderness, yet in spite of its monstrous vastness and aridity, I will further call out, and indeed, as long as I still have a spark of life in me. So I will yet again produce a special bulletin, and present our conversation in it that we have led together in regard to all the things in Israel, in the Gaza Strip, and in Lebanon.
That will be good, because you thereby carry out your obligation as also all core group and passive FIGU. Members who are involved in it through their cooperation and financial help, and thereby also observe their responsibility in order to fulfill your difficult mission. They are all the first bearers of the sense of their responsibility, and out of their help will emerge that it therein transforms all evil and makes a suitable place for the better and good. The earth humans of today, as well as of those of tomorrow and in all the future, can, and may, be thankful to all who show the way to progress and to peace, as well as to the freedom and harmony. That is, if I may speak with your words for a moment.
Against which there is no objection. But now I really have nothing left to stop you with.
Then I will say goodbye to you now. If Bernadette manages to finish our conversation reports, we will be able to do the correction work next Saturday.
I am sure she will.
Goodbye then, Edward.
So be it. Take care.